Welcome to the Simply Authentic podcast with Angie and Tanya, where we strive to inspire, empower, and challenge you to be your most authentic self. We'll talk a little real estate and interview entrepreneurs, business and community leaders, and hear inspiring stories.
Welcome back to the Simply Authentic podcast. I'm Angie Mullings.
And I'm Tanya Murphy. So today we have a guest with us, and this is Billy Dove. You're not going to know him by that name, though. You're going to know him as the 417Foodist. So if you are on social media at all, you probably know who this guy is because he is posting all of the most amazing pictures of the food that he goes around in our area and eats and tries and meets with restaurateurs. And
Yeah.
I guess that's how you say that.
Yeah.
So, Billy Dove.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I
Welcome.
appreciate it.
So tell us who you are. Tell us what your background's in.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into the 417Foodist background.
Yeah. So my name is Billy Dove. Grew up here in this area, grew up in the small town of Sparta, and believe it or not, my background really doesn't have anything to do with food whatsoever. That kind of surprises some people from time to time.
Yeah.
They assume that I work in the restaurant business of some
I
sort.
think we did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they are surprised to learn that I've got a background of 15 years as a buyer for John Deere Remanufacturing here in Springfield.
Yeah.
And so I've worked there for 15 years now. And about 4 years ago, I just kind of decided to dip my toes into a little hobby of this. Everyone was doing it, posting the pictures of your food on social media.
Yeah.
And I decided to kind of have a designated space for that just because I enjoyed it so much, going around and showing support to local restaurants and business owners. And so July 4 years ago was in 2019, 417Foodist was born.
Okay.
Awesome.
So tell us your path kind of starting out from then
Yeah.
to now, just kind of an overview. And we'll kind of get into the details as you talk and ask you questions about it. But tell us how you got started actually visiting restaurants and letting them know what your purpose was. Because you just said, I started as a hobby. So tell us about that.
So originally when I first started, I honestly, nobody knew who I was.
Sure.
It was, on the weekends, if myself and my family were going to go out to eat, we just kind of started designated our time to going to local places and just going in, trying different dishes, taking photographs of the inside of the restaurant, the menu, and whatever foods that we wanted to try from their menu. And so when I started that in 2019, the goal was just to give people a visual of what they could see to eat in town that wasn't necessarily a chain restaurant.
Right.
And from there, it's just kind of went from just me going on my own and doing it. And then over a year or so after people started to kind of recognize and follow the account, it's got a little bit more harder to be inconspicuous when you're going in places.
Right.
Right.
December of 2019, Color 10 had reached out about me coming on to Ozarks Live and kind of showcasing different things that I was going out and seeing. And that's where kind of the people not knowing who I was kind of went out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had asked. Like,
Dunzo on that.
yeah, they specifically asked, are you wanting to stay anonymous or, are you wanting to or for people not to know who you are? And it's like, that was never necessarily the goal, but I always wanted it to be a hyper focus on just the restaurant and the food itself.
Yeah. So let me interrupt you and ask, so why do you think that they took you serious enough to begin with? Because anybody could have done what you did. I could go out today and go eat somewhere and take some lovely pictures. Why do you think they took you serious, and how long did that take to get to that December ask from Color 10?
Well, actually, so Joy Robertson with Color 10 is who had actually reached out to me.
Okay.
And I actually asked her that question on what made her decide to reach out to me. And really, she said that she enjoyed seeing the widespread and the variety of
Okay.
food that I was posting. It wasn't just a specific like, oh, this guy just likes tacos or this guy just likes
Right.
burgers.
True. Yeah.
So seeing how much of a variety I was posting from not just within Springfield, but outside of Springfield, a lot of small towns,
Yeah.
places
Yeah.
you may not have heard of, doesn't have a marketing budget.
Yeah.
And so when I started the page in July of 2019, by December of 2019 is when they had reached out, and I started going on Ozarks Live at that time, probably 1 to 2 times a month, starting in December of 2019. And the goal was come for 2020. The goal was for myself and Tom Turton, who is a host on the show as well. They wanted to kind of have a Springfield style of diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so they wanted to put some cameras in my car and kind of hit the road and go to a couple different restaurants and make short videos out of it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, 2020 happened.
Right. It happened to all of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that never really took off anywhere. So we kind of just turned it into remote segments or just me coming on the show, making appearances with video and photography or photographs of different restaurants and kind of giving rundowns of the different places I've been to.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, what's interesting is as I've talked about you coming on this podcast and people that haven't heard of you, they're like, well, is he a critic? And that's not what you do. It's a little bit unique in that you're not a food critic. You're everything that I've read on your socials is very positive. You're trying to put a positive spin, bring people out to these restaurants,
Yeah.
and like you said, especially outside of Springfield because you're everywhere.
Yeah. So that's one thing I never wanted to pass myself off as because I'm not classically trained to critique food
Sure.
by any means.
Yeah.
So I don't want to pass myself off as I'm a big enough of a critic to tell people to yes, go to a restaurant or to no, do not go to a restaurant. Because with the bigger the following that I have gained, your words mean something.
Yes.
And so for me to go on any form of social media or anything that I have a word for and tell people that just because I may not like something, just because I didn't like it on the first time I've been there, therefore you shouldn't go there. I feel like it's almost like a dangerous game.
Agreed.
It is.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
wouldn't make many friends if that's
Yeah.
what you were doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't want to, if your words have power, someone could see that and they say, hey, this guy says don't go there.
Right.
Therefore, even if they've never been there, they're not going to go there. If they,
Right.
if they take my word serious.
Right.
Right.
And so the trickle effect from that
Yeah.
of you having enough of a reach for people not going to it, choosing not to go to a restaurant because of what I've said,
Right.
has that trickle effect from them not going to affecting that restaurant not going to have any more business. It may not be hugely detrimental to the restaurant, but it's definitely going to see people not going and trying new places.
Sure.
Right.
There is a cause and effect behind it.
And
For
everybody has their own palate, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Something that you don't like, someone else might like. So
Yeah.
it's really, I've always thought the critic role was a little, definitely detrimental, but a little short-sighted because, again, you might not like the dish you ordered, but the next time you go in there, you may order something that you
Yeah.
love.
And that's kind of a rule of thumb that I always had when I started it was I want to, if I do have a dish that I don't like, and if it's the first time I've ever been to that restaurant, there's a lot of factors that could play into what could make that dish not appealing to me. And I mean, that can be from staffing issues to, supply issues. So I've kind of made myself a rule of thumb that if I'm going to go in someplace and I didn't like it the first time, I give myself at least 2 to 3 times. 3 times, if I can
fair.
go there 3 times and I don't like it, then I just won't go back.
Sure. Right.
Right.
But more than likely, you're like you had mentioned, everyone's palate is different.
Exactly.
I could tell you that your favorite restaurant is not my favorite, and that's my opinion.
Right.
It's not truth. It's my truth, but it's not everybody else's truth.
Exactly.
And so I really never wanted to force that onto anybody
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So you work with Color 10 in the beginning.
Yes.
So what did that lead to, and how did that increase your following?
So when I started working with Color 10, I had also started doing short interviews with different restaurant owners, just kind of because I really wanted it to, I wanted to showcase not just the food, but I wanted to let people see the people behind the scenes, to get to know the people who are creating the dishes that you're going in and eating every day.
Right.
Because, you can get in that habit of you just go in, you order something, you eat, and you leave. It's great food. You're done.
Right.
But to kind of see a little bit behind the scenes of who's doing that. And so I started doing short interviews with multiple restaurant owners, coffee shop, coffee truck, stuff like that. And that kind of, my writings through that, when I had posted online, kind of led into me kind of getting the opportunity to write for a couple of websites here in Springfield, all doing kind of rundowns on local restaurants, places for you to get best tacos or dessert.
Yeah.
And so I had written a few things for like Longitude Branding here in town. I wrote for the Murney blog a couple of times. And so that kind of led from just posting pictures, but to the writing side kind of took off with things.
So you have another talent.
I found out really quick. So,
is there anything, I mean, everybody likes to go out and eat, right? That was when I was growing up, that was a treat. I grew up on a dairy farm. When we came into Springfield, we got to go out to eat. It was a treat. But behind the scenes, these are people trying to make, and restauranting is a tough business. I don't know from experience, but I've heard it's a very tough business. Anything about these restaurateurs that seem to be, that strikes you as something they all have in common, or anything you'd want to say, the general public to know about these restaurateurs that are behind the scenes doing what they do to bring something that they love to the general public?
I would say everyone that I have met and worked with, they all have the dedication to their craft. They dedicate it's their time. It's their livelihood, and the dedication they show to the items they create on their menu is stuff that not only they love, but they're hoping that the public loves.
Right.
They're hoping that the stuff that they are working to create, that you will like just as much as they do. Right. Because when they're creating those menu items, they're testing those menu items, they're tasting those menu items, and through their eyes, if it's passing their own approvals, there's always that hope that everybody else will enjoy them. So it's that dedication and time that I see with everyone that they put into those specific menu items, and that whole menu that may change per season. Everybody has that drive. They want to succeed, and they want to be the best at what they're doing. And so that's what I like to showcase. I want people to see that it's more than just a plate of food that you're ordering and eating.
Yeah. And what came to mind, the word that came to my mind while you were saying that is it's a gift they're giving the public, that they're wanting to share. And whether it be their talent that they're standing there cooking it, or they know what tastes good and what goes together with some ethnic dishes or whatever we're talking about. It really is the gift that they're sharing with the public and hoping they love it like they do.
Yep, that is correct.
So the restaurateurs, I'm assuming that they welcome you in with open arms now because you're kind of popular.
Yeah.
And you're kind of known.
It's kind of a big deal.
He's a big deal.
Yeah.
What was that like in the beginning? Did you have to convince people of what you were doing and why?
It definitely, I don't know if it was much of on a convincing side.
Yeah.
Once people started seeing that I was coming into their restaurants and posting pictures of the food that I had, I think they seen the effects that they were, when one restaurant would see the effects of people were coming in to want that dish that I posted about.
Yes.
Then they would invite me, hey, can you come back and showcase? We have a new special, or we have new menu items. Can you come in and showcase that so people can see what we have?
Got it.
To where I think it boils down to, following. If I have a greater amount of following, say of a restaurant, sometimes it means a larger reach. And so getting people to be able to see what they have, that's when they seen that effect of people being able to come in and order those specific things, more and more restaurants started kind of reaching out and inviting me to say, hey, can you come showcase more of our items? Or we seen what you did with this restaurant. Can you come do that with us?
Yeah.
And honestly, in the 4.5 years that I've been doing it, every person I've worked with has been awesome. It's been great to work with.
And do they ask you to give them true feedback? Like
there are some that, especially if it's a restaurant that is, say, it's like a soft opening, or it's a new restaurant that's just opening in the area. Getting to go to like a friends and family night or just a soft opening.
Sure.
For one, it's me working with them to get the word out for people to come see what they're offering, but also with myself and other people who are kind of in the industry that get to go to those nights, have more of a one-on-one with the restaurant owners and the chefs to be able to go over, in that way it kind of is a critique, but it's more of like a face-to-face, here's what we seen didn't work, here's what we do see that does work. That way it's more personable. And then they can achieve that before they actually open up to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're forming relationships. We're in a relationship business.
Yes.
We meet clients, and for them to trust you fully, you have to form a relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
So we understand that side of it.
Yeah.
Do you get reached out to by numerous restaurants and business owners? What would you say weekly, monthly? How many people are reaching out to you now, 4 years later?
Yeah, so it can vary. Sometimes my schedule can be 6 to 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It really depends. It depends on, towards the end of summer, things start to slow down a little bit. I think if it's because of kids are going back to school and everything.
Yeah.
But it can be up to 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah,
I can
I
have
bet.
something on a calendar. I bought a dry erase board for my office, and I write my calendar out so I can see visually
Yeah.
where I need to be. And there has been times where it's been 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And I'll usually try to allow myself, because I work a full-time day job,
Yes.
and I do this on the side. So I definitely try to allow myself free time, where I'm not gone every day.
Yeah.
But the great thing about it is even if I am scheduled to go someplace, I've worked with enough people, they know my family as well.
Yeah.
And so they know most usually if it's not just me, my wife and son are tagging along with
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
And they're always inviting. They're always telling me, bring your family, bring them in.
That's nice.
So
Yeah. And we were talking before we started recording here that you've been doing some food judging and that kind of thing, and fall festivals, obviously. So what's that been like?
Judging food is always fun.
Yeah.
So I got certified through the World Food Championships I'd say about 2 or 3 years ago to be able to judge food. I guess you could say on a professional, semi-professional level that it allows me to travel and judge food through different competitions. I mainly do it here locally. So like the Food Truck Fest out at the fairgrounds, they invite me every year to be a food judge out there. It's a great way to get to sample a bunch of different food from a bunch of different food trucks and seeing what they have to create.
Yeah.
Because you're getting their maximum effort
Yes.
when they know that there's, a prize on the line.
Yes.
Yes.
And so it's a great way to kind of get to know a food truck and a food truck owner through their food
Yeah.
and the creations that they're spending time to do. But so judging food is great.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I bet.
And like fall festivals, getting to go. We talked about Silver Dollar City.
Yeah.
Getting to go down there because they changed their tasting passports with their different seasons.
Sure.
And so I got to go down there and check out their harvest season
Yeah.
tasting passport, and everything pumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And they've done pumpkin ribs to
Really?
pumpkin ice cream and you name it. And
Yeah.
if pumpkin chili.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Never
getting
had
creative
that.
with some pumpkin.
Yeah,
now.
for sure.
Yeah.
And so if you like pumpkin flavor, Silver Dollar City is the place to be right now.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in the beginning this started as a hobby, and you just talking in the last 10 minutes, this has become more than a hobby.
Yeah.
Do you get paid to do these things?
So I don't. So when a restaurant reaches out to me, I've never charged a restaurant.
Okay.
I don't ever have plans to charge a restaurant.
Yeah.
Just because, and I'm blessed enough to have a good job on my own.
Yeah.
That I never really have the plans to turn it into a full-time job. Now, granted, that could change. I didn't expect to be where I'm at now 4 years. So you never know.
Yeah.
But I've never charged any restaurants just because the way I look at it is that it's their livelihood.
Yeah.
It's their livelihood to have people come in to buy their food and to be able to pay their bills, pay their employees. And I just want to be a helping hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I've always told everybody. And that use me as free marketing.
Yeah.
You know, let me showcase your food. And more than likely, you know, they're always like, "Are you sure we can't pay you?" I'm like, "No, you can't. You don't need to pay me anything." And they were like, "Can we feed you?" And I'm like, "Sure, you can feed me. I'll take that."
Will not
down.
say
Yeah.
no to food.
And so most usually they always feed me when I come in.
Yeah.
And so which is a great perk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know. And but I write. I'm a writer for the city of Springfield.
Okay.
And so I do that through them as freelance. And so I do get paid through the city of Springfield
Okay.
to do freelance writing for them on their website and create some social media.
Okay.
And then I am able to make money off of like social media through Facebook and Instagram. So those two different revenues cover my cost of any of the food that I have to pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you mostly paying for your food unless you get invited? So if you decided to go to Angie's restaurant this weekend, you would show up and intend to pay for your food, obviously.
Yeah.
But when they invite you and they've reached out to you, do they then offer their food for free?
Yeah, most usually if they've reached out to me and they want me to come in
Yeah.
and showcase something, I always offer to
That's
pay.
nice, yes.
Every time I go, because I don't ever expect them to give me anything for
Sure.
free. You know, I'm already going to go out on my own and go to the restaurants no
Right.
matter what.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm 4 years into it. I'm going to keep doing it no matter
Yes.
what.
Yeah.
But most usually it kind of turns into like a small fun argument of me telling them I'm going to pay and them telling me I'm not going to pay. And so I'd say it's a good 50-50.
Yeah.
So if I'm going out on my own, if someone recognizes me a business owner and they offer to pay my food, I don't ever let them. Even if I said, "Oh yeah, please pay it," my wife would not. She'd be like, "No." She's like, "They are not giving this to us for free."
Right. Yeah.
You know, because a lot of places are mom and pop places, and we
Yeah.
don't want to take
They
money
are. Yeah.
from them.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so I'd say it's about split 50-50. I'm paying, and versus whenever there's like, "Hey, you showcased it, it's on us,"
Yeah.
type of thing.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to shift gears because this is making me hungry talking about food so much. One thing you've been brilliant at, Billy, is building a brand. And a lot of the listeners that we have are entrepreneurs. They're looking at building a business, building a brand. And you didn't start out to really do that, but that's what's happened. So can you talk to us a little bit about what it took to build that brand, some maybe mistakes you made along the way, or did you know it all?
Oh yeah, I definitely didn't know it all, by no means. So just building on the name of the 417Foodist, because like I said, the goal wasn't to be Billy Dove, the 417Foodist. It was just to be 417Foodist. And honestly, it's a hustle. It is dedication to, time to getting your name out there, getting that brand out there for people to recognize. Treating it, in my eyes, was treating it as a second job and putting in as much into it as I was taking from it. So if it was, spending, any amount of free time after, say, my son would go to bed, if, engaging with people, engaging with other accounts so that people would see, my page, see that name, recognize that name.
Right.
And, and it takes engagement. It takes engagement on all forms of social media. Yeah. And so that more and more people start to see that and will recognize that and ask, what is it?
Right. Who is this?
Exactly.
417Foodist. Yeah.
And build the relationships through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
because just to be clear, you have no formal training in marketing or anything like that either.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
It's just been a lot of reading of articles on how to, find the proper way and the successful way to interact through social media, understanding the insights and the statistics on your social media pages to see, when people are most active, when the appropriate times to post your content is, on each day. You know, it ebbs and flows. You know, certain days may hit harder or hit heavier than others. Other days are lighter. So paying attention to the insights that social media gives you through, say, Facebook or Instagram, and knowing, hey, you know, I'm not going to post at 11 p.m. because the amount of followers aren't as active at that time.
Right. Yeah.
And so understanding that you post within those specific windows, and then just feeling out the demographics and in the appropriate times to work that social media.
Did you ever pay for ads on Facebook or boost a post?
Yeah. I've done it on Facebook maybe a handful of times, but with a lot of my stuff really starting on Instagram. Instagram will at certain points will even offer discounts on when it comes to boosting posts.
Oh, okay.
You know, they'll give you, you know, $10 off if you boost something at the cost of, say, at least $20.
Sure.
And so usually what I would do, making money and being monetized off of social media, is kind of refunneling that money into post on there.
Got it.
So using some of that just to set up if a post was already doing well, social media is really well at telling you, hey, this post is doing 95% better than your last 5 posts.
Right.
And then just kind of dedicating some of that cash flow towards that, and you can boost the post for, honestly, for however long you want.
Yeah.
But I would say I'd boost it for a good 5 days and see more traction come off that post off of just the people who are following locally.
And you mentioned this earlier, but how do you monetize those ads or those posts that you're putting up? How do you turn a simple post into making money off of it?
I believe each of the social medias have different qualifications you have to meet to be able to start monetizing them. And I think it's different thresholds with the amount of following you have, but it's not even just the followers. It's a matter of people interacting with your content. Being able to get, X amount of views on a video or X amount of reactions to a post. And once you start hitting those thresholds, like say specifically on Facebook, they'll lay it out for you that you need to have, X amount of hours of views, building up or interactions with your post. And once you start meeting those goals, they allow you to start turning those different things on. So they allow you to start turning on monetization on a post just based off of views and reactions. Setting up subscriptions where you could offer people at a cost, say it's $1 a month, and then you're creating content specifically for those people who decide to subscribe in a payment form to your social media. So then you're not even just creating social media for all of your followers, then you're going to need to start creating content for those specific people who are willing to pay to follow to get behind the scenes stuff or something different than whatever you're already
they're
putting.
Looking for.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So this started out as a hobby, and 4 years later, you're doing. Not only do you work a full-time job, you're obviously committed and passionate about what it is you're doing to help promote the Springfield restaurants. But what's the future look like for the 417 Foodist?
I ask myself that every day.
Yeah.
Because, like I had said, I didn't expect to be, going on TV. I go on the radio now. I'll do that once or twice a month. So I never anticipated any of that happening.
Yeah.
And so the way I look at it is I take it day by day, and honestly, where the future leads to it, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it could lead. I'm open to anything.
Sure.
And I just look to see whatever comes my way, and every week is something new.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you have your expectations, you're open to where things will take you. Sometimes it's just a matter. You said yes at one point. You said yes, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna do it. It's gonna be a hobby. You didn't have a lot of expectations, and 4 years later, you've got yourself a brand, and people know you. I heard you on the radio the first time I knew anything about you. I heard you on with Foch and Friends, and so sometimes it's just a matter of saying yes. And we tell our listeners this kind of thing. We like to be encouraging and tell them to take a risk and take a chance sometimes. And you said yes to something, and now here you are.
Yeah, because it was definitely scary and nerve-wracking being offered to go on TV.
Sure.
Going on live TV for 5 minutes at a time.
I bet.
5 minutes is a lot of time.
It is.
It really is, and sometimes it's even less than that. And you think, oh, I can do 2 to 3 minutes, but 2 to 3 minutes is a lot of time to fill, and it's very nerve-wracking. It's very nerve-wracking to have those cameras, 5 feet from your face, and wondering if you're going to say the wrong thing on live TV.
Yeah.
And so even accepting and it's nervous. It made me nervous, but I'm not going to turn down the opportunity to go on TV.
Yeah.
Once you've done live TV, it feels like the other steps that have come along with, whether it be doing the radio or, being offered to write for the city of Springfield, all of those seem just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
After just jumping feet first into live television.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So can you tell us some unique restaurants that you could tell our listeners about that they don't know about? Are there some places that you've been that are little bitty joints, or maybe not so little bitty, but they're just not, here on Primrose Street in Springfield? They're hidden away in another little town. And how far out do you go to find these places?
So I've had a running list of restaurants. So I kind of made a list through every small town of every restaurant I can find in those towns, and then started working my way and just checking off those places. Yeah. So like if you go into Fair Grove, there's a time travel cafe, which when you go inside, it's all kinds of movie and TV memorabilia on it. Yeah. It's a husband and wife that own it, and they're making pizza and burgers and sandwiches. Yeah. And just on a little strip of street in Fair Grove. Yeah. Getting to see what they're doing for that town and the amount of people that are coming in there. It's great to go in there and just get like a big classic cheeseburger in there. Yeah. Or, traveling, there's a new food, like some food trucks. Food trucks seem to be where a lot of people are getting their start at. Yeah. People are seeing it as giving the town a preview of what could possibly come into a brick and mortar.
Makes sense.
And so there's a new food truck out in Republic called Smash Burger. And it's a small family that started it, and they've got a small menu of different types of smash burgers where they're putting everything from peanut butter and jelly and bacon on a burger to barbecue burgers, and just going out and kind of showing support for the small places that if they don't have a huge following, you may never hear about on social media. Yeah. And so that was a really enjoyable one to go out and kind of visit with the family. Yeah. And, it was a gentleman that was probably in his 20s or early 30s, but his dad was helping him run his social media and wanting to get the word out about the new food truck. And so it's little places like that. It's fun to go out and find.
Yeah. Yeah. So, super fun. And you're finding different foods as you go. Yeah. I can't imagine all of the different foods and food groups that you have now tried and been introduced to, maybe.
Yeah, it's harder now. It's become like a double-edged sword. It's harder to find something that really blows you away when you've ate so much in so many different places. Yeah. Yeah. That it honestly becomes my goal whenever I'm going out on the hunt for places to find something that really takes me, surprises me on how good it is. Yeah. But then you just find those places. I mean, I found, I went to a taco truck down in Branson on the other side of the landing that had no idea it was there. I just happened to stumble across it, a little place called Tacos Number One. And just sitting off the side of the road, and it was some of the best quesadilla tacos I've had. Really? In food trucks. And I tell people, if you find yourself in Branson, go all the way around the landing. Go like you're driving out of town towards Forsyth, and you'll come across this tiny little food truck that sits there. And, wow. And some great food. Yeah. It's always the stuff you never expect to find. Yeah. That really can, blow your mind.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, we see you building community around you. And Angie and I talk about community a lot just because it's an important word to us, and it's kind of a buzzword right now of different people and different influencers building people up to take chances and to do what they love to do. You're doing that. I see you doing that every time I like one of your posts and look through all your food. So how do you feel about that? And what would your advice be to somebody who feels strongly about building community?
What I enjoy about it is when you introduce a new restaurant to somebody who's never been there, and people enjoy it, you start to build that repertoire of those people that like, hey, this is my new favorite restaurant. And then they tell their friends, and they tell their friends. And you're building those small communities of people who are going now, and say on a weekly basis, to these specific restaurants, that these are their places. This is their go-to place after work that we're going to for happy hour.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you help build micro communities for these restaurants, because it's, they have their regulars now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because I definitely, for the amount of restaurants I go to, I have my favorite places that I like to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't say that I go in and order the same thing all the time, just because I always like to try something new.
Right.
And but it makes me happy to be able to help build those food communities amongst people. And this telling, I'm a strong believer in, if you don't like something one time, give it another shot.
Yeah.
And just continue going out and finding those places that you like to go to. You like to, pester all the time with different foods and food groups you like, and build your little food community within your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. What better way to build community than through food?
Absolutely.
Some of us, our love language is food. So.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, as we wrap up, we always like to ask our guests if they have any funny or interesting or unique real estate stories. You got anything for us today?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this. And because I'd listened to some of the other episodes, and I was really trying to think of something, and then I completely forgot. So honestly, I don't have one.
Yeah?
If I would have remembered, I would have had a story. And I knew you were going to ask me, and I forgot about it. So I apologize.
That's okay. We've had a lot of good content, and like Angie said, we're hungry now. So where can people find you on social media? What is your tagline?
So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at 417Foodist.
Okay.
And you can find a lot of my writings. It's just under Billy Dove at springfieldmo.org.
Okay.
So through their blog site.
Okay.
And that's where you can find most of my content.
Okay.
Excellent.
Well, you're going to explode with way more followers now.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Thanks again to Gershman Studios for hosting our podcast. We love our Kate and Jordan. They're here for us all the time.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya. Thanks for listening to the Simply Authentic Podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Be sure to listen to us on your favorite podcasting app.